Hello everyone, it's Joe here from DRAFT FPL and we are back with another Draft FPL team preview video. In particular, we are looking at the fixtures coming up, any potential gems from each team and any players we might want to get a shot of. If you enjoy this content, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet. It's the last 4 teams in the series, so we're nearly there. Today is Saints, Spurs, West Ham and Wolves. Let's get stuck into it then. First up, we have got Saints. Now, I would say Saints fixtures are unbelievable just to kick it off, right? We've got the next 10 game weeks. Their fixture rank is 4th over the next 5, 4th over the next 10, and they're the only team. The only reason they're not first is because they don't have a double game week. That's literally the only reason. The only, top 6 team they play in that whole 10-week period is Chelsea, and that is 8 weeks away, right? So the next 3 are brilliant. Brighton at home, Fulham away, Forest at home. After that, the run just goes on. Everton, Villa, Brentford, Wolves. Then it's Chelsea, then Leeds, Leicester. So the fixtures are really, really good. Obviously, the struggle is going to be deciding who we want from this team. And I think this first game in game week 17 is going to tell us a lot because it will kind of give us an idea on who Jones is going to go with, and that is the curse of having a new manager. We don't know how he's going to line up really. We're not sure on the setup. We'll try and get some clues from some friendlies and stuff before the season kicks back off again, but it's going to be difficult to tell. But it's definitely a team you want to keep your eye on. That did of course make this video really tricky to make because we really just don't know that much yet. So when we look at the players, I think I've just kind of, I don't think there's anyone that's going to go down in value that we know of so far, right? Because no one owns basically any of these players. I looked through some of the own percentages. The only players that are well owned really are Che Adams and James Ward-Prowse and to an extent Bazunu, but he's been terrible in terms of points, that is. So they're the only ones that have the even possibility to go down in value because no one owns basically anyone else apart from maybe a defender. But I actually think they're the likeliest candidates in Adams and Ward-Prowse to go up in value because they are. James Ward-Prowse is clearly the best player in the squad, and Che Adams is probably the person next with the most potential after James Ward-Prowse. So I think they're the 2 that are most likely to go up in value. So there really isn't, I don't think, anyone that is likely to go down. Hence why I've left it blank. It's the only team I've left blank because I think they do have an okay squad. I don't think it's great. I think it's probably about 14th, 15th-ish in the Premier League, which obviously isn't great, but it's definitely better than how they've been performing so far. When you look at the reports from Hasenhüttl and the dressing room and everything that's happened, I just think there's no way this team aren't going to get better. So I do think it's an absolutely brilliant investment opportunity, and there's no way I won't have at least 1 Saints player, probably 2 in basically every team that I manage. The players I've picked out, Adams and Ward-Prowse, I think are the 2 best players in the team and the 2 most likely to get that bit of confidence and play with a bit. If they can start playing with a bit of tactical awareness, I think they are the ones that are most likely to do well. I've picked out Perraud as well because I think he's quite a talented attacking fullback. If he can sort the defence out and if the fullbacks are playing quite high, then I think he could be a really good pick as well. But to be honest, it could be anyone. We just have to wait and see. I'm going to be watching that Brighton game really closely to try and figure out who is the most likely to be climbing in value. So yeah, that's Saints really. The fixtures, I just want to go back to how good the fixtures are. They play 1 top 6 team in the next 10, right? We could be looking at 5 clean sheets in the next 10. Like that it's not unrealistic to think they keep 5 clean sheets out of Brighton, Fulham, Forest, Everton, Villa, Brentford, Wolves, Leeds and Leicester. Like that is not unrealistic. It's also not unrealistic they don't score at least 2 goals in 6 out of those 9 games. Maybe that's a bit high, but 4 out of those 9 at least. So yeah, that's it really. I think pay attention to Saints because they have been doing poorly and they may continue to do poorly, right? This might just be a completely failed experiment, but I don't think it will be. I'm quite interested to see how they get on. Next up then, we have got Spurs. Their fixture run is really good as well. The next 3 are Brentford away, Villa at home, Palace away. So 3 strong fixtures. They're second on the ticker over the next 5, and that is mainly because they've got 4 really good single game week fixtures. The 3 I've just mentioned, plus Fulham away in game week 21. They also have a double game week in game week 20. It is tough. It's Arsenal at home, City away, which are probably about as bad as you could possibly get for a double game week, but it is a double game week, so I would definitely still be starting any Spurs players I had. Yeah, might be tough, but it is still a good fixture. The next 5 after that, they then go City at home in 22, which is tough. Then it's Leicester, West Ham, Chelsea, Wolves. So the next 5 aren't amazing, but the first 5 are really good. So when we talk about players, these are the people I'm most looking at. We'll start with Son and Kulusevski. I think I'll start with Son first of all, because I think he's kind of a case on his own. He struggled in the first half of the season. A couple of brilliant performances, a couple of really high scoring performances, but there was major inconsistency. I think he was knackered. That's my kind of hypothesis on it. I think he was just really tired. I'm hoping, the injury he sustained to his face kind of gave his body a bit of a rest. He did go to the World Cup, but didn't play, too many minutes. Has had a decent amount of time back with Spurs now to get ready for game week 17. I expect Son to come out the blocks firing. As well, I'll talk about the rest of the forward line. Kulusevski, obviously injured for a decent chunk of the start of the season, but is now back fit, firing, had the time off, didn't go to the World Cup, and will be ready to start. Richarlison, kind of came back into the fold, did well for Brazil, but has now picked up a hamstring injury, so he is now ruled out for the foreseeable. I reckon probably. My guess would be 5 or 6 games probably, which gives Kulusevski, Son and Kane a decent chance. And then Kane, I think it's going to be really, really difficult for him not to be affected by the penalty miss, that I wouldn't say knocked England out, but helped England to go out, right? An 85th minute penalty miss when you're 2-1 down in a World Cup quarter-final is going to play on his mind. There's no doubt about it. Now, he may come back, fresh start back at Spurs and do really well. But we've seen in the past when things like this happen, there is a mental toll. There's no doubt about that. No matter how strong he is mentally, there will be a toll. He's also, he got a bit of an ankle problem in the World Cup. He didn't look that fit, I don't think, for the subsequent games after that. I think he had a little bit of an injury doubt, but he's too important to England to leave out. There was a couple of the games for England that he was kind of moving around like a bit of a lump, which he does tend to do when he does have an injury. So I'm not too high on him. I say he's gone down in value. He may go down in value. He's still going to be very high in value. I'm not saying he's going to go down drastically, but I just have a feeling that Son and Kulusevski might turn out to be better options over the next 8 weeks. Another player I'm looking at is Doherty. Sessegnon's got this strange injury that he can't seem to shake off, and has been reasonably inconsistent anyway. Perisic has played a ton of minutes in the World Cup. And is old and was prone to rotation even before that. So I wouldn't be surprised. And Doherty, I've seen some pre-season, if I say pre-season, mid-season information that he's doing really well in the friendlies. I think a couple of goals, a couple of assists, might be impressing Conte in training. Wouldn't surprise me to see him get back into that starting lineup. And we've seen what he's done at a wing-back position before, where he's so attacking. He does do most of his best stuff in the final third, so could also be a really good pick. Other players, the last man I've not spoken about yet is Bentancur. He's got an injury as well. I think he tore an abductor for Uruguay, so that is a bit of an issue. He's going to be out for the time being. I know a lot of people have him at the moment because he's playing that kind of midfield box-to-box role, but I think he is probably a drop if he's going to be out for more than a couple of weeks, which it looks like he will be. Next up then, we've got West Ham. The next 3, Arsenal away in 17 is pretty bad, about as bad as it gets. Then it's Brentford at home, Leeds away, which is pretty good. The next 5 fixture rank is good because after that Arsenal game, the fixtures are nice. It's a good run: Brentford, Leeds, Wolves, Everton, and then they get quite a lot tougher for the 5 after that: Newcastle, Chelsea, Tottenham are the next 3. So the fixtures are good. It's tough at Arsenal, then there's a good spell, and then there's a tougher spell. So there's definitely a window of opportunity for West Ham, and I think there are some picks definitely that will be interesting. It's good in a way that we get the Arsenal game to just confirm who we think will start, and you can watch that game, play it from there, and see who you can pick up. The people who I'm expecting to do well over the next period, Aguerd, obviously back from injury, had a pretty good time at the World Cup, but at least will be back with West Ham. I'm not convinced he'll play in game week 17, but going to the Emirates, that's not the end of the world. Anyway, you would have benched him in that fixture no matter what. So I think from 18 onwards, he'll probably be, first choice alongside Zuma, and may well be a really good pick because West Ham historically have been a decent defence and one we can rely on for clean sheets in the better fixtures. Scamacca, he's had all this time with David Moyes back in London. He's not been at the World Cup, so no issues there. I think this has probably been a great opportunity for him to really assimilate into the squad. I expect him to be starting now. I do think he has more quality than Antonio, and I think he's going to be a really good pick coming up. And the last man is Paqueta, really good World Cup. Started the majority. Well, he started all the games for Brazil, I think, maybe missed one. But played well. Obviously, they went out a bit earlier than he would have liked, I'm sure. But still, it shows the calibre of the player. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him, during this period of 4 fixtures that are really good, Brentford, Leeds, Wolves, and Everton, to get a little bit more involved in the fantasy points. And the players that I think, are going to struggle, maybe go down in value, Antonio seems like the most obvious because, as I said, I think Scamacca will get that starting role nailed down now, which will probably see Antonio back on the bench. Another one is Craig Dawson, with Aguerd and Zuma back fit and look, on paper look like a really good partnership. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dawson on the bench. And Fornals as well, with Paqueta, Bowen, Benrahma all fit and all, they were in decent form before the break, and I suspect they'll be the starting 3 behind Scamacca. Fornals, who has played quite a lot of minutes and is rostered in quite a few teams, I think will probably go back to the bench, but as I said earlier, we do have game week 17 to just kind of confirm who we think that first choice 3 behind Scamacca will be. Finally then, the last team of these team previews is of course Wolves. Fixture rank over the next 5 is 14th and 14th again over the next 10, so not the best for Wolves. The next 5 I actually don't think is that bad. 14th sounds bad, but I think there are a couple of decent ones. Everton away is okay. Then it's United at home, which is tough. Then Villa away, again, not too bad. West Ham at home after that, it's not horrendous. Then it's City away in 21. They do also play Liverpool and Spurs in the following 5 after that. So hit and miss fixtures. I think it is probably because the easier fixtures are all away from home really, and the tough ones are at home, which does tend to skew teams more towards the lower end of the fixture rank. But I do think there are some interesting options from Wolves, and I'm interested to see how they get on now. Obviously, they've had the manager change, and he's had some time with the squad. We'll see, how they can get on. Looking at the players then, the players that I think might go up in value, I think the obvious one is Raul Jimenez. He's really not been the same player since he had that bad injury. He didn't do anything really at the World Cup, which was a shame. But I do think he will probably get back to the starting striker position for Wolves, and we'll see if he can manage to get some form together. That obviously then does reduce the value of Diego Costa, who I think was always just a stopgap really until Jimenez got back fit again. I think that also increases the potential output of Guedes as well, because I think he's much better wide than taking the responsibility of playing through the middle. I think he's a much better FPL asset when he plays wide. So he is someone that I am potentially keeping an eye on. Nunes as well, I think if Wolves can get a decent bit of form, might do well as well. Potentially see him playing number 10. But to be honest, what I'm really interested in with Wolves is the defence. They've signed Lopetegui, and he is, it's interesting that they kind of sacked Lage because of, he wasn't playing exciting football. Well, Julian Lopetegui is known to be a very defensive manager, so I don't think much excitement is in the future for Wolves, really. They don't have that much of an exciting squad. That their squad is built around defensive stability, and I think that is what we will see. So the likes of Kilman and Collins, I think, will still be good picks. I also have gone for Bueno as well, because he's done really well since he came into the lineup, and I think he'll be the starting fullback over Johnny Otto, who is obviously going down in value. Also Moutinho, I think his days in central midfield are kind of up. I wouldn't be surprised to see a midfield two of Neves and Boubacar Traore going forward, which does leave Moutinho out, but I don't think that's too much of a surprise given his age. And that wraps up my Premier League restart team previews for game week 17. All 20 teams done now. If you missed any of the other videos, make sure you go back and check them out. If you enjoyed this series, I'd very much appreciate liking the video, subscribing. Think about joining the Discord, the Patreon. It's all going on, so anything you can do to support the channel. These obviously do take quite a lot of time, but I'm glad I've got them out of the way, because I've got more content coming up in the run up to the restart. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.